I don't think anyone could have guessed that 2022 Mr. Relevant, good old Brock Purdy, would be leading the 49ers to the top of the NFC. But here we are. So let's talk about how we got here in the first place.
Back to throw. Pressure coming. Steps away. Looking to run. And he walks it in for the touchdown.
In his 4 years with the Iowa State Cyclones, Brock was one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12, but never elevated to the level of being in Heisman contention. So with that in mind, the idea of getting drafted seemed like a toss-up. And I guess the predictions were pretty spot on.
The San Francisco 49ers select Brock Purdy, a quarterback from Iowa State.
Although being Mr. Irrelevant is not necessarily anyone's first choice out of college, it's much better than finding your way on a random practice squad. So I'm sure the Brockster was pumped not only to get drafted, but to be joining one of the most prolific offensive attacks in the league. Going into the year as number 3 on the depth chart was not an ideal spot for someone who had started for the past 4 seasons straight in Ames, but it was a great opportunity nonetheless. Initially, Trey Lance was starting, but then
They're going to go with Trey Lance, and Lance is down right now.
Just so unfortunate.
And then over the next few weeks, Jimmy G took over the reins until
Garoppolo off on a cart.
The chances of Trey and Jimmy both having season-ending injuries in the same year are astronomically low, but it somehow happened, and it put good old Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy in quite an interesting spot. In the middle of the 49ers Week 13 matchup against Miami, Jimmy G dropped with an ankle injury, and so it was on Brock to carry the torch and help San Francisco win their 4th straight. Considering how much pressure was on Broccoli as only a rookie, you would think it would be a recipe for disaster, but actually it was quite the opposite.
Purdy looks to throw. Use check. Touchdown. Purdy underneath for the touchdown.
From beginning to end, Brock was on timing as he sliced up the Miami defense in a 33-17 smacking of the Dolphins. It was looking like Mr. Irrelevant might have fallen a few rounds too far based on his play from the very beginning. But even after such a performance, many speculated that it could have just been a fluke. So going against the GOAT the following week was a test of whether or not Brock was really that guy.
Blitz coming. Purdy lofting, going deep. Has McCaffrey. He's got it. Touchdown, San Francisco.
Turns out Brock's performance against Miami was only the tip of the iceberg, because against Tampa Bay, my man was able to methodically demolish the Bucs on only 21 passes, as the 49ers were able to win by 4 touchdowns. Beating the GOAT on your first official start is insane for any rookie quarterback, but the fact that Mr. Irrelevant did it was all the sweeter. Keep in mind, Tom Brady himself was the 199th overall pick back in 2000, so I'm sure he saw glimpses of his younger self in Brock. And I mean, I can't blame him.
Purdy loaded up, going deep. He's got a man. Ayuk in. Touchdown 49ers.
Interestingly enough, Brock's performance against the Bucs may have had a direct impact on Brady's offseason plans. Because why should the 49ers go after the GOAT if they already have a stud like the Brockster? Anyways, enough of the goofy nicknames and GOAT talk. And so going into last week's Thursday night matchup against Seattle, there was quite a bit on the line, considering that the 49ers could clinch the NFC West with a win. Or should I say that there would be a lot on the line for anyone except the real GOAT in Brock Purdy, because although it was only his 2nd official start, from beginning to end, he played just as well as anyone out there.
Fake toss, 2 fake tosses, and then to Kittle over the middle. Touchdown, San Francisco.
Just like against Tampa, Brock was able to slice and dice the Seattle defense as his 200 yards and 2 touchdowns helped the 49ers clinch the division, and upon that establish themselves as one of the most dominant teams in football. After back-to-back-to-back wins behind Brock's solid play, going up against an up-and-down Washington team was looking like an interesting matchup to prove if they were the real deal.
One skill of block, going deep, Purdy's got him! Touchdown, Kittle!
Well, once again, it turns out Brock and the gang are, and after beating the Commanders to win their 8th straight, they are now on fire going into the last stretch of the season. Needless to say, Brock is much more than Mr. Relevant, and honestly, he could very well be the most impressive quarterback in his class. Every game that he's legitimately played in has ended with the same result, a W, and that's not something you could say for anyone else out there. Considering that the last 2 games of the season are against Vegas and Arizona, 2 teams that have left very much to be desired, a 13-4 finish for the 49ers is not all that crazy a thought, especially if Brock is able to keep up this level of play. But Brock is not the only guy to show out during this time, as a certain certified stud in George Kittle has also developed a great connection with the Brockster, and in fact is coming off back-to-back 2 touchdown games. To say that Brock has impressed is honestly a bit disrespectful considering just how out of the blue all this has been. Because not only was he just a late draft pick, but he was Mr. Irrelevant and started the season as a 3rd string with next to no hope of playing. But here we are.
The fake, And the fire. It's Kittle getting a block downfield, and a good one it was by Jennings. He's in again!
In a matter of a few weeks, Brock Purdy went from Mr. Irrelevant to Mr. More Than Relevant, as he's become the talk of not just San Francisco, but the football world as a whole. Something about Brock makes him easy to root for no matter if you're a 49ers fan or not, because there's never been much more of an underdog story than the very last pick of the draft, leading one of the best teams in the league back to the very top of the football world. If Hollywood makes a movie about his life, I want a 20% revenue split. But honestly, on a real note, I just want Brock to keep doing his thing. Although comparing someone who has only played a few games to the GOAT is a bit wild this early on, the similarities are undeniable, as the two both were taken super late, both critiqued to hell and back, and both started as a backup with next to no hope of starting. We'll see if Brock is able to have even a quarter as good a career as Brady, but the fact that he's gotten to this point already is super impressive, and makes it seem like not even the sky's the limit for what he could do in the Bay. When you have legends like Steve Young saying that the 49ers used the quote-unquote force to get him because he just had something different, then you've got to be doing something right. Although stuff like that may sound a bit insane, it really comes down to the fact that someone must have had a gut feeling that Brock could be special, even if the odds may have been stacked against him, and even if everyone else might have counted him out.
Blitz coming. Purdy lofting, going deep. Has McCaffrey. He's got it!
It's one thing to be a great athlete on the field, but when you're also dope off it, let's just say it's a good sign. And funny enough, recently Brock and his 49er teammates Nick and Alfredo made funny little Christmas cards for the team. And although that's something very little, it's stuff like that makes a guy like Brock someone you can get behind. That's the thing about Brock. On paper, there's no reason for him to be doing as well as he has and continually showing up game after game. But even the simplest things like him making the Christmas cards proves that he's a player's player. And I think it's something that the 49ers have been missing for a while. San Francisco has had quite a bit of talent the last few years, but they haven't been able to mesh as well as many would have liked. But behind someone as unlikely and someone as unique as Brock, maybe they have what it takes to do something special. The fact that Brock has also been able to be straight up and authentic with the guys around him is a pretty dang great sign, with a superstar like Trent Williams saying that he would tell guys to shut up if they were talking in the huddle. Stuff like that shows you that Brock takes pride in the team doing well. So getting on receivers about not running or whatever you have it is just a part of who he is. And I gotta say, that's super commendable for someone who is so new to the league.
One skill of block, going deep, Purdy's got him! Touchdown!
Needless to say, Brock's more than exceeded expectations of the whole Mr. Relevant tag. As funny enough, he's the only quarterback of the Mr. Relevant bunch to even have thrown a regular season touchdown. So now it's looking like he's trying to do the same thing in a very underwhelming rookie quarterback class. Don't get me wrong, guys like Ritter, Pickett, and Malik have shown flashes, but Brock has played like a veteran from the very beginning, and it comes down to the fact that he has about as much determination and will to be great as anyone out there. He may have been overlooked at Iowa State, but it's nothing new for a stud who got next to no love in his 4 years with the Cyclones. And honestly, the whole underdog mentality has only pushed him to do something greater than anyone could have ever guessed. But anyways, what do you guys think? Does Brock Purdy have what it takes to be that guy in San Francisco? Or has he just been put in a great situation? Comment down below your thoughts. Brock Purdy is one of the most unique players in football, and although he may have fallen all the way to the bottom of the draft, it's given him the fuel to prove everyone wrong game after game. And it's why I think he could be something special.
Running with his direction on the option play.
And he walks it in for the touchdown.
Fired up, as he should be.
Thanks for watching the video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment down below stuff you want next. But anyway, see you all soon. Peace out.
Linebacker flows to McCaffrey, backside slant, you hit it in the slot, Jennings just tips it up in the air like a volleyball.
Are you serious right now, bro?